Well, thanks for joining us. So this is the Office 365 Productivity Tips November Smackdown. And we are going to try and do this monthly. So next month, and Tom, what's the date for December? Is it the 12th?
Something like the 12th, yeah.
Like so that's the December drubbing. So yeah, I was trying to be creative with the names.
Ooh,
but,
I like that.
November just is the Smackdown. That was just next.
Yeah.
So
November knockout, something like that. That would
there you go. That would have been great had we thought of that before we published that. But anyway, here we are with this. So
no, dude, you published that. I don't think I had any input into this. Okay.
No, you're the victim here, Tom. Of course. So just to introduce myself here, my name is Christian Buckley, the founder and CEO of Collab Talk, and I've been in the SharePoint space since 2005, but going way back, I've been just a fan of productivity and collaboration technology in general, and so it's a lot of fun to come together in this format and to put together these sessions. And so this is, Tom, is this the third one that we've done together now?
Right. Actually, the second one that we've done live on Facebook in this format, and we've actually done it live in Minneapolis.
Correct. So we are going to try and do this on a regular basis, and I'll walk through just after Tom introduces himself here, but I'll walk through kind of the format and how we'll be running this. Just very quickly, Collab Talk, my company that's sponsoring this, is independent research and technical marketing services company. And if you have any questions about what my company does, I'd love to talk to you about that. But over to you, Tom. Introduce yourself.
It's about time you're done. Gosh, I think you were sponsored. Oh, God, you are sponsored. Never mind. I'm Tom Duff. I'm like the comic relief for this particular this setup here. I'm a software engineer at Cambia Health Solutions, which is a large health insurance company in the Pacific Northwest. Many of you would probably know it as Blue Cross Blue Shield of Oregon, Utah, one of the Cross and Shield plans up in Idaho and Washington. And I focus mainly on SharePoint stuff. So I'm not trying to sell you anything. I can't sponsor this. I'm just an ordinary worker in the mines that happen to like to share tips, and it kind of turned into something far more than I expected.
Yeah, this was, and just to give Tom and his site, his blog there, 1minuteofficemagic.com, some props. But so I had been thinking about doing something very similar and just kind of a recurring theme on my blog on buckleyplanet.com and around these productivity tips. And I've got just lists of different things that I found every time I read an article, and I think, wow, that's a great little a tip or hint of how to optimize usage of a tool, within the Office suite or Office 365 platform. And as I'm starting down this path, for some reason, I think I caught that you had been live with this for a few months.
Yeah, I've been moving stuff over from the old IT Unity site.
And Tom and I were getting to be friends, and we shared this passion around productivity and said, hey, wait, we should just join forces and we'll push a lot of this content out through Tom's blog there. Maybe we'll get to the point where there's enough trust that I can do some guest posts with some hints and tips that I find. But Tom and I are not like the creators of, like the finders of these solutions, of course. We're kind of aggregating these things wherever we find them. So if you do have a favorite hint or tip that you'd like us to include, we'll give you full props. Here's this person brought it to us, or it's on their blog. So we'd love to find that. All Tom and I care about is crushing the other in this competition. So if you have something that you just think will demolish the other person, please
send it to Tom. Send it to Tom.
Well, let's jump into the rules of engagement for this. And I was thinking about this, and Tom and I are still sorting out how to best collect the voting on this, because there will be voting. So I think what we're going to do for this section versus different polling, which is kind of odd to go and grab, is please comment when we ask for the winner of each round. Please, in the comments, send us a comment, and we'll collect these and we will then count them up and share out the winner of each of those rounds. So Tom,
comments out in Facebook.
So between here within this or out on Facebook,
okay,
we'll have their names so they can't vote twice. Sorry, Tom, they can't vote twice. You can't vote shills in the audience to vote multiple times.
Can I vote?
No, you cannot, Tom.
Okay.
So
hold on, I need to log into Facebook under a different ID.
Yeah. So here's how we do this. So each of us are going to take turns. And this is something that we've decided, since we're doing both these online and live in person, like we did the SharePoint Saturday Twin Cities, doing SharePoint Saturday Utah together, we will not have duplicates. And the reason for that is that, like Tom and I are going to be doing later today, is recording our live session from Minneapolis so that we can then share out every one of the tips that we've done digitally. So that we can then go and blog and tweet about these different tips, but everything will be recorded and available out on YouTube within this format. So if you see us live, you are seeing 10 new hints and tips that we've come across. So we will, so in our live session in Minneapolis, just to clarify, because Tom and I had said when we do live, we can share kind of best of, and I reused one tip from a previous online session. And that after that session, we both decided that they should always be new, no duplicates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah.
You betcha. No duplicates.
Okay, I'm moving on, Tom.
Okay.
So the audience, as I mentioned, audience votes after each round. So we are collecting the number of votes, like who wins a round, who wins overall. There's 5 rounds, so somebody is the winner of the session. But we're also keeping stats on overall votes and overall rounds won. And Tom, who would be the winner of both of those stats currently?
It's fake news as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, Tom, that would be me.
That was fake news. Fake news.
We also say no hitting below the belt. The belt is kind of a fluid thing. It's digital, so where's the belt really? We don't know, But yeah, it's all in good fun. Yeah, Tom, I do have to say, I mean, the song you had, that Eminem song playing in that live. We need to do that in our recording. You need to play that in the background if you can. But
that was fun.
Like boxing gloves, like the training gloves. It was is all out. But yeah. So again, we have the winner based on the overall voting, and we will collect this at the end if you want to hang around. In the recording, I'm going to go in and edit, make it a bit cleaner with the votes there, and add to the information to the slides. But that's how it goes. And so, Tom, are you ready? We're going to do a pass control back and forth as well, because I don't know what Tom is going to present, nor does he know what I'm going to present.
Or so you think.
Yeah. So, but what's cool about this is that I might have, for example, a OneNote hint, and then Tom may come back with like an Excel hint or tip. And so it's like an apples to orange comparison. We've not yet had, I don't think, have we ever done like one product against each other?
I think we may have gone product against product.
Like on a OneNote?
Yeah, I think so. The one thing that's different and that we have to be aware of, which is kind of the fun thing that we're not aware of, is that if Christian has like tip number 2 is XYZ, and I'm sitting there with that same tip in tip number 4, I can't use tip number 4 now.
Right.
So I have to be ready to have a backup tip, and hopefully he doesn't have too many of my duplicates, because then I could run out and I would have to default, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah, so I'm the same way. So just a heads up, Tom. I only have 2 backups that I wanted to bring up today. I know we've talked about having 10 ready to go in case we were 5 for 5 duplicates, but I don't think that'll ever happen. But watch that. I just said that, and watch that happen. But
well, the fact that we go back and forth with you lead and then I lead the next round, theoretically, the most we should ever end up with is one of us could hit like 2 duplicates.
Right.
So usually we come in with 7, we're fine. I will admit I only have one duplicate, so I'm walking a bit of a wire on this.
Right. Now, I think there's so much that's out there, and I think the chances are slim. You never know, but I think the chances are slim here. But so I'm going to kick things off, if you don't mind, Tom. I'll do the first one and then hand off.
I would be more than happy to let you go first.
All right. So here we go. So here's something that I like this one. I've had conversations around this. It's not too exciting, but when you're thinking about functional, with some of these are just like, I need to go and do this. Here's a great Office 365 team-based thing that maybe you haven't thought about yet. But
before you go too much further,
yes.
All I'm seeing right now is the round one.
Because I've not flipped the slide yet, Tom. Right. I'm building up drama.
Lottie freaking da.
Right.
Okay, I will sit here again.
Here we go. Adding a custom tile to the app launcher. Tom, have you guys done this in your organization yet?
We're still in the process of migrating to Office 365, so this would not be something that I would have ever had show up in my list.
Well, what's great about this is that, for organizations that are really wondering, well, how do I best manage this from an Office 365 standpoint? And there were some joke slides or images that were pushed out there. In fact, I went and modified one in the early days of the app launcher, lovingly known as the waffle, where somebody did it, and I duplicated the image where they said, it's so simple. Here's the app launcher with all of your important applications through the app launcher, and I'll if you've ever gone in, seen the waffle, and I've got it in another screenshot here in a second, but and then what I did is I copied and pasted the image, and there were about 100 different tiles filling up the entire screen. Look how simple this is. But it is, more and more. So I've gone in. You can rearrange the order in which you view the various tiles within the app launcher. But the other thing is that if you've got your intranet homepage, or maybe you have a company-wide initiative that you have a SharePoint site, or some external website, or a Yammer group that you just want to make it front and center for everyone to go and find, you can go in and add a custom tile that points to that URL, and it's very simple to go in there and add. So that title, the URL where it is, a description around it, and add that image URL, and there, you need to make sure that it's sized appropriately. And then just go in there and add that tile, let people know that, hey, this is now available. They can go and sort where it appears, why you've added the tile. But this is just kind of a straightforward, but if you're trying to, again, make it easy for end users to find that item, that site, that initiative, that thing that's important. Maybe you've built a custom solution or a custom team site, or have a third-party tool that you want to just make easy for anyone just to go and pull up from from that app launcher. You can go and add that tile. And so this is, I know that I used to show in a demo of my previous company, and people, and so I had this tile for the product, which was an intranet solution, a social collaboration a solution. It's a company called Beezy, and I would demonstrate this. I had a little Beezy tile, and people were fascinated. Did you just create that using Photoshop or something? No, I just went in and created a tile for it. And people were like, wow, and how do you do that? How do I find out about that? And so I don't know if anybody has seen that or not, or used that. Tom hasn't. So
I have not.
He probably right now is thinking, my tip is far superior. But let's find out. Let's find out together. Let me give control over to you.
Okay.
And you now have control.
I am now the host, and I will now share my screen. And we'll see if this actually works the way it should. So let me know if you can see.
I can see your screen.
Okay, so we have the sharing of date ranges in Outlook. Yes. Hey, it even shows up over on Facebook.
Woohoo!
I'm looking over Bob's shoulder on Facebook. Yeah, it's there. I hope there's no Bob out there that's Modi. Those are going to get tossed automatically. So it's kind of ironic that you said we will take tips from anybody and give due props, because I took this tip from Tamara Bredimus and gave her full props for it. So
I know Tamara.
I kind of know her too. Sort of kind of worked out over the last month. We've gotten to know each other really well.
Yeah.
In fact, I just came home from Minneapolis last night, so I'm still on a bit of a 2-hour time lag. So what she had run into is she was trying to do a status report, and in order to put together the information from her status report, she wanted to go back through her inbox. But of course, in your inbox, you've got folders and all this other stuff, and she was trying to get everything that had happened for the month of May. So what she had done is she went into her current mailbox and realized that by using some of the advanced search features in the search bar, she could put received, the start date, ... and the end date, and exactly that format, no spaces. And what she ended up with is something similar to what you see right here. She did not see all the things that said Tom Duff, because that would be really strange. But what she found was she could go out and get all of her emails that she had out there, whether they were in folders or sent folders or, filed for whatever, for May, which made it very easy then for her to do her status report. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was like really cool, because I have seen that there's a lot of power in the Outlook search bar, but I had just kind of never thought about that, especially being that I tend to do my status report every day. And then I just mail that off each week to my boss. I would love to just go into all the minutia of what you can do for various search commands that work in Outlook. But in this particular case, I'm just going to give you this URL right here, because this gives you a whole lot of different options. And I think what you can find is that you can do a lot of things within search in email, especially if you tend to be an email hoarder, that can allow you to get to just the items that you want. And I'll kind of throw in a little side tip here that's semi-tangentially related, if that's a word. It is now. If you don't keep a daily status report or a weekly status report of what you do, even if it's just for your own purposes, I would strongly suggest you do so. I got into the habit back in the mid-'80s, and I just really dated myself right there. And I think it was on the mainframe, and it was just a text file that I used to put in there, but they were just bullet points of did X, did Y, did Z. Mm-hmm. And that was a major thing for me, because I could get to Friday and go, I don't have a clue as to what I just did. And what made a lot of difference is when it comes time for year-end review, I end up having a whole list of things that here's what you did all year long. And so when it comes time to do a self-review and to, hype your own accomplishments and let your boss know what you've done, all that stuff is right there. So if you're using a tip like this to help you do your status report, that's great. If you can get into a daily habit, I've got a OneNote notebook that has a section that is status reports.
That's I've got as well. That's been my habit as well. But this is anything that you've got that does this kind of collection of this kind of information. Of course, there's a lot more to sort through in most people's emails, but it's a good thing to go and be able to catalog this.
Yeah, to me it has just probably been, I'm going to say one of the top 3 things that has contributed to my success over the years. And that is when somebody says, oh, can you put together a self-review? I'm like, give me 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'll give you counts. I'll give you details. I'll give you all my major projects. I'll give you everything I've touched. And when they go into calibration, because we do that particular thing, and in Enron we did rank and yank, which was really cruel calibration. That was the kind of stuff that my boss loved, because you put that in front of him And when he would go into calibration, he's like, here's Tom, here's what he did, here's why he deserves this rating. And basically there would just be this silence in terms of debating it because everything was laid out, where unfortunately a lot of people would go, God, what did I do this year? And they're stuck. So like this that feed that other habit, really, really important and valuable.
You know, and Tom, for those that have never been like out in the consulting world, I mean, I got started to get into the habit of thinking about my actions when I was out consulting in the early 2000s and had multiple customers and just needed to kind of keep track of what was being delivered. And when I joined Microsoft in 2006, and that whole commitment model and weekly meetings with the manager and showing the roll up, I just kind of developed the habit of cataloging that. Like you, I mean, I have, I use OneNote, but I also started using in my blog, doing a monthly roll up. And it's not this like, hey, look at me, what I did. Part of it is just like an extension of my brain of cataloging all of those activities, and to go back at end of year and say, and here are the different things that I did. And I try to even kind of categorize them of types of events and types of activities. Again, I own my own company. I work for myself. And so I'm not reporting up to anybody there, but I still have that information to talk to clients about, hey, here's what I've done. And certainly to be able to kind of upsell services to other companies, like look at the volume and the breadth of the things that I've done, which is a great thing to do within an organization. If you're not ringing your own bell, nobody else is going to do it for you.
Exactly. And a lot of techies have a hard time selling themselves, and that is a critical skill to have. It's like, well, I don't want to toot my own horn. I don't want to, brag. It's like,
please do.
It's not bragging, it's selling.
You need
to sell.
Yep. Well, let's do this. And I know that, Nedra's got a question there, but we'll do some follow-up of that in detail, post the session. But, based on what everyone's seen here, round one, who do you think won the round? If you can add to the comments, and we'll collect the votes here. But so my suggestion was adding the icon or tile to the Office 365 app launcher versus Tom's search for a date range within Outlook.
And gentle suggestion that you might want to start doing status reports.
Yes. I think I'll agree with everyone. Not just, you got somebody named Tom who's given props for Tom. Well, that's biased. But I agree. As far as the day-to-day productivity, I'll give that one I'll cede that to Tom as well. So good job, Tom.
You're a gentleman and a scholar.
Yeah, this round I am, yes.
I was going to say, you've just upped the guilt factor, too, if anything comes further down the road here.
Because I'm trying to be honest and unbiased here, Tom.
Oh, God, that one hurt. That one left a bruise, actually. I think I'm going to have to heal that one.
Yep.
Okay, next tip up here is zooming the text in on an Outlook email. And this was kind of a cool thing that occasionally what'll happen, especially if you're getting email that's like HTML email, somebody may have sent something that didn't quite format the way that you expect it to. And so you're looking at this thing, it's like, font's 3 point, 4 point, like I can't see this thing. So what Outlook does is if you open an email, what you can do is you can click on this zoom. And right now this is grayed out, but normally if you had an open email, this would be active. And if you click the zoom button, what it does is it pops up this screen here, and it gives you the opportunity to change the zoom on the email temporarily or permanently, actually, to 200, whatever you want the percent to be. Do you want page width, text width, whatever? And this can help you read an email that really normally you'd have a really hard time reading, or you just have to skip it, or you copy it and put it in Word and increase it in Word. And when I use this one internally, they're like, oh my God, you just saved my eyesight. And it's like, it wasn't that big of a deal. For these people, it was, because they were dealing with a lot of weird emails that were coming in. But what's really nice is that if you have a mouse with a scroll wheel, makes it really easy, because what you can do is you can hold down the control key and scroll up and down with the mouse or with the scroll bar. And when you do that, it will actually scroll the screen, and you'll also see what the text zoom is. It'll tell you in the middle of the screen. So if you just temporarily want to bump something up to, maybe 130, 140% to make it a little bit easier to read, you read it, you delete the email, file it, do whatever, and then just hold the control key down and go back down to 100%. Or you could go back up to the zoom and just click 100% and bring it back down. So again, for me, this was like, no big deal. But for the people who were actually working in front of their computers all day long with claims and processing emails and stuff like that, this tended to be a really big thing for them.
Very cool. So yes, for people who have really poor eyesight, this is a great.
Okay, so pass control to you.
Like increasingly, I'll just throw this in there so that people are just flat out insulted, which will happen a few times more, I'm sure, in the session. But is that as my kids point out to me, it's like the fact that I'm now wearing reading glasses showing my age as I'm rapidly approaching that 50-year mark. So forwards, there it is.
There it is, yay!
Tell me what you want to do. So here's one of those things. It's the tell me capability. So as I say here, I can just read my own text here, but if you've ever struggled to know like what to do, where to find something, what I like is this, it's accessing that AI, the machine learning out there, looking in context of what you're doing, but it's also natural language. So if you're in there, like I use this example, I've got this PowerPoint presentation. I did this webinar a couple weeks back with Pixel Mill, and going in there and saying, like, I want to be able to go and do something, share it with somebody, print it, whatever it is. If you're just, sometimes you're in a rush and your eyes go blurry, you can't find the right control, the thing that you want to do. And by just going in and typing in natural language, like just the word share pulls down. Or do you mean share it, like publish it, save it as a show, other additional help? If I want to, send it, do you want to preview it? Do you want to print it, a mail recipient, elsewhere? So as you start typing in just words of I always say to my kids when they're frustrated about something and I'm trying to aggravate them more by being very kind of logical, and I say to them, use your words. And that tends to upset them a little bit more. But that's what dads do. But having this one place to go and ask a question of how to do something, and it's across the entire Office suite. No matter what application that you're in, you'll find that tell me capability, and to go and do certain things. Of course, if you're in Word or Excel, PowerPoint may be less interesting to most folks, but Excel and even Word, where you have especially Excel, some very advanced functionality that's deeply embedded within the navigation, in finding out how to do certain things. As you start typing in what you want to do, be more specific around it, it will then filter through and try to identify and suggest to you different things you can do. So I don't know, Tom, if you're using that capability at all.
This is where I have to admit I'm a little old. Actually, I have to admit I'm a lot old. But I still have that tendency to want to go directly to Bing or Google and find the answer there.
Yeah.
But now that we're up on Office Pro Plus or Office 2016, I have used that on occasion, and it really is amazing how well it works. I've been really surprised, and I think as I get to use it more, and now that I've been reminded of it again, I think it's something that we're going to start pushing a lot of people to, because again, we're always wanting to cut down the number of requests that we get to the help desk. And a lot of times, because I'm doing, this stuff that I do here for tips, internally I refer to it as Spark One, and Spark is our company intranet. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people contact me going, "Oh, Tom, how do you do such and such in Excel?" It's like, Do I have Excel Guru in my title? No. I just happen to find something because I share it. Everybody thinks, oh, I know everything about Office and Microsoft. It's like, no, I really don't. So this is something I'd like to push more and more people to.
I like Sharon's comment. I tell it, it's not your father's type of question for help box.
Exactly. It's not like, I used to tell people, and I still tell people, search is more of an art than a science. And it's like half the time you're thinking, what words do I want to use to search? And
right.
This makes it a lot easier because you can do more natural language searches and get closer to what you really want.
Exactly. And the other thing is, because it is machine learning enabled, it does, learn from the requests, the queries that are in there, and get smarter as it goes. So that was round 2. So the question out to the audience, and we'll, kind of monitor again. If you could just comment round 2, your votes there, we'll collect those. It was the, zooming into the text and Outlook emails, or the tell me what you want to do capability. Round 3.
Ding, ding.
This one, sorry, get ready to enter coolness, Tom. Sorry.
I'm perfectly okay with what you're going to toss here, because I kind of like what I've got coming up.
Okay. All right. Tom, are you a Star Trek fan?
God, my geek card is in danger of being yanked again. I do like Star Trek, but I'm not probably as geeky as many of the other people who do like it.
Well, this one will live long and prosper, I'm sure. Universal Translator.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. So this is something that, and just really quick, if anybody saw the first demo, the first speech that Satya gave when he became CEO of Microsoft, it was at the Worldwide Partner Conference, 3 years ago. And part of that, there was a demo of the Skype translator where it happened in real time. They're live on the screens, and it was translated to German. And there was a conversation back and forth. Well, there's something similar to that. I think we're still, there is the Skype translator that is out there. But what's great about this capability, if you are presenting and you're going to have people either live there in the audience or remotely participating, and that don't speak your language well, you now have an option to go into the Microsoft Translator and select your language, the event. You can then have it's basically on your laptop running, and it translates your spoken word into text, and then it translates it into another language. What you then can do is send people the link that are participating, let them log in with their language, and so then they get the code to your session, and it will automatically translate into their language in real time. How cool is that?
That's actually pretty freaking cool. And if you were at Ignite, they were using, it was more, because they were doing it in English and they were speaking in English, it was more of a closed captioning than a translator.
Yep.
But in terms of watching it keep up and watching the accuracy of people who maybe didn't have English as a primary language, I was actually pretty freaking impressed with it.
Yeah. I'm sure that was probably the Skype technology, and I'm sure this is a slightly different thing that's out there. But what's great about this too is that it is simple to go in there, sign up for, send the link to people, and if they've never used it before, they go create a quick login for it and leverage that. So if you are at a live event and there's just a few folks that are struggling for this, and I was just thinking about like SharePoint Saturday events, which you and I do, and occasionally cool. I go into other regions that there are English speaking sessions, and I've been where there's like in Spain, to the Barcelona and Madrid SharePoint Saturdays, and there's Spanish tracks, so there are people that don't speak English at all. This solves that problem. and people can ask questions back in their language, and then it pops up within the chat, and I can see it in English and be able to respond.
Now, is this an Office 365 thing, or is this standalone that you could use?
Well, it's in the family of. Are you going like on a technical on me there? The technicality there? No, it's like part of it, and like the old day of Microsoft, it would have been like a lab or an R&D experiment, and that's why I say it's tied to. I mean, I go look at the history, the etymology of the technology, but I'm tied to the Skype translation services. That's being folded in. I think it's one of those things where it's finding its way in, and the next step will be most likely integrated. Like, think about this if this were just integrated as an app within Teams, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, all I was going for was the lawyer trick of trying to present reasonable doubt for the people who aren't on 365, who would look at your tip and go,
saw what you're doing there.
Cool, but that's not really useful for me, so I'm really looking forward to what I'm going to do.
All right, so I am going to pass control back over to you. If I can get back to I'm in the wrong. Yeah.
Okay, so linking to other slides in a PowerPoint presentation. This was something that recently came up that I thought was cool because, one, I didn't really know you could do it, and it made me rethink how I could do PowerPoint presentations. So what I decided to do was put together just a simple little slideshow that had a main slide that said basically pick your slide, and then had slides A, B, and C. And you can see those listed down the left-hand side here. So what you do in order to link to another slide, much like you do creating any other hyperlink, you just go ahead and highlight what you want the link to be, click on Insert Link, and then the box that comes up here, normally you'd link to like another web page or something like that. What you do is you say link to a place in this document. And what it does is it gives you a number of options, one of them being all the slides you have out there. But you could also do like a first slide, last slide, next slide, previous slide. So what you could have across the bottom is kind of like a standard footer that advances or sends your slides back if you wanted to use something other than the normal PowerPoint, forward, backwards, advancing type thing. So what I've got here is I went ahead and made a link to slide A, and you'll now see back on my main slide, slide A is a link, which is kind of cool. And then I went ahead and filled the rest of this out doing slide A, slide B, slide C. And what I also did is on slide A, I decided to put a back to menu slide. And again, that's just linking back to the main menu of slides that we have there. And so you maybe think, well, nope, you don't get to win the round yet. I get to talk about this now. The cool thing about this is I know a lot of times I've been in demos where the person's going, okay, I've got 3 different ways I could go with this slide deck. We could talk about A, we could talk about B, or we could talk about C. And what this type of thing, which is kind of cool, is that you can say, okay, here's your choices. Where do you want to go? And if everybody goes, hey, we want to see information about B, you can click on, okay, let's go to that topic. And you pop right to that slide. Or when you send this slide deck out, people can do that same thing. They can say, oh, I want to see about this instead of that. That other part doesn't interest me. You could also kind of get really creative and do a choose your own ending type slide story that you just click on whichever way you want to go and you pop back and forth all the different slides you have out there. But I thought it made for an interesting concept of how you could actually create a slide deck that you send out to other people, and you may have your topic up here and you may have all your subtopics listed, and instead of forcing the person to have to go through each slide by slide by slide to get to where they want to go, you could allow them to actually navigate within your slide deck back and forth to just the areas that are applicable to what they want to see. So I thought that was cool, not only just for the thing of being able to say, hey, I could link directly to another slide, but the fact that you can structure your entire slide presentation in such a way that using this feature gives you a lot more options and gives your person that's viewing it options later on once you share it with others and that's your desired route that you want to go.
You know, that, and that's something that you think about, like in Word. I mean, you go and you build your like table of contents, and you can add those as hyperlinks down to each of the different sections and that kind of thing. But what's also cool when you do this within PowerPoint is if you are sharing out your slides, maybe even as a PDF, and that navigation's there. So you could add it as a table of contents at the beginning of a presentation, with the intent of then making the slides, semi-locked down by making it a PDF rather than a PowerPoint, and then sharing that out.
Exactly. And so, like I say, I present that one for just the coolness of being able to link to another slide, but also for the ability to rethink how you can do a slide setup and make it look different and make it be somewhat more valuable to your viewers, either at the time that you're giving it or after the fact.
And I think within the category it's a great topic there, Tom, is you think though about what Microsoft has been doing with like the introduction of Sway and what was a very rapid ascension of that product to the full, Office productivity suite of tools. But is this idea of that, hey, different people have different communication needs, requirements, different communication styles, and give people multiple ways that they can share out that information. And so, PowerPoint, some people love it, some people hate it. But if you can make it more flexible when you're sharing out and communicating information out to teams, it can be a really good thing. So
and what you could, I was going to say, what you could also do with this one too is you could have your main core of information for, topic A, and say you're covering like 10 topics. And then at the end of topic A, you could have a link to additional slides at the end of your presentation that gives more details or that gives you a whole bunch of links or whatever. So you can keep it out of the main core of what you're doing, but you still can include it in the slide deck, get it out of the way, but make it something that people can click on to go reference if they need it. Again, it would be like, having an addendum onto your Word document at the end where people could go find the information or footnotes, things like that. Okay, number 4, and this is one I thought I had a live example there, and I don't, unfortunately. But I will try to explain it in such a way that it makes sense. And again, we're back in PowerPoint, and one of the new transitions that you have, and I will tell you that it's always less is more when it comes to transitions. You don't want to do a bunch of transitions on your slide deck because pretty soon people get really confused about where things are coming in from and the whole bit. But Morph has kind of a cool scenario here. So what I've done is, if we look at the graphic here, especially slides 2 and 3, I had set up a slide that says starting point, and I put a little trapezoid up in the upper left corner. And then I had an ending point slide with the trapezoid in the right corner. And I applied the Morph transition to these two slides. So what happens is when I'm on slide number 2 and I do the move to slide number 3, what happens is that trapezoid actually smoothly moves across the screen and down into the lower corner, which I thought, well, that's kind of cool. Yeah, I will admit that why do you need a trapezoid that moves? Think of it more along the lines of maybe you have a number of points that you want to make, but as you're making your points, you want the point to be fairly prominent on the screen, but once you're done with that point, you want to go to the next point. Maybe you want that point to slide over to the right, and whoops, I did not want to do that. You make the slide move over to the right, or the words move over to the right into a smaller font. So you still have a list of all the points that have been being made, but it's transitioning every time you switch to the next point. and it's looking like a smooth show rather than just the jarring change.
Right.
So I found Morph kind of interesting, and to me it kind of stands out a little bit more than just the, oh, I wanted to sweep in from the left, or I wanted to fade in and fade out. Morph actually makes it look like it's almost a bit of a movie or animated GIF file or something like that. So this is something you may want to try because it does give some nice polish to the presentation.
And I think, and your guidance is spot on that it's cool to go and do, but I think that you do need to do a little bit of fine tuning to make it smooth. And because I've seen some fantastic morphs where it's centered on like a graphic that's like a pie chart on the top right, and where you see like just that pie chart, change. It's some really cool effects. And I've tried to do some just canned out of the box, and it wasn't exactly what I wanted, and just need to spend some time tweaking it to get it to what I need. This is just a little more on the functional side of this. This was actually something I went and looked for different options for modifying the time zones. I work with customers around the world, and so I'm constantly struggling. I actually have bookmarked in my browser like a time zone converter to go and look at scheduling meetings between 3 and sometimes 4 different time zones. I'm doing that multiple times during the week. And so one of the things that I was looking for ways to do what I want, and I won't get into that because I've got a couple other tips that I'm going to use in the future around this topic, but I came across this one which I really liked. Which is making your time zone part of the timestamp for when you're sending messages and meetings and things like that. So it's just going in and setting your region, the time zone, so that it's actually displaying when you're sending a request. And that seems minor. It's very important because I have this conversation all the time. I'm Mountain Time Zone. And here Tom and I are scheduling something, and did I send the invite in Mountain Time or Pacific Time? Thinking about Tom and I've got that pretty figured out with 1 hour difference. But for some reason, it's a real struggle with some of the folks on the East Coast with that 2 hour difference. When is that invite? And I thought it was later. It's like, but it was on your calendar. It automatically goes up. But what it was they were confused. While even though it was on their calendar, yes, they had in their minds by seeing when I sent the invite for 1 p.m., but it was 1 p.m. Mountain Time, they translated it as 1 p.m. local.
Right.
And just reading it, and it was in their minds, even though they added it to their calendar in the correct time. So this is something that you just go in there and do quick and easy. And the other kind of side piece to that is, which I have done, like I've had a customer that's in Berlin, so they're GMT +1. And so I've just gone in and added to my calendar, since I'm talking with them almost every day in the morning, and as we're scheduling and planning things out, I just have that second time zone as part of my calendar. So I go in there and immediately I see if that's the primary, you've got your primary time zone and your secondary time zone, to always have those visible. It's just a great little quick and easy way to keep track of that.
Yeah, I know that when I was co-authoring a couple books back in my Lotus Notes days on Same Time, my first co-author on the first book, she lived on the East Coast. So I almost automatically, and I still do this 3 hour time zone. So somebody says 10 o'clock, and in the back of my mind, I automatically think 1 o'clock too.
Yep.
For the second book, we actually had somebody in addition to that who was in London. So then it's like, okay, so I'm doing the 3 hour plus an 8 hour. And now that I'm traveling and visiting Minneapolis a little bit more often, I'm now starting to do this 2 hour time shift. So because I'll probably be working remote from Minneapolis on a number of occasions, because I am able to work remote, that would be something that I would find useful, because I'm going to be thinking, okay, I'm getting up at 8 o'clock there, and it's 6 o'clock my time here in Portland, which is normally when I would start working. So.
All right. So I talked about one aspect of this in a previous one. This is a different capability, but using the Windows ink to sketch on your screen. So I use this past week is awesome capability. So if you're not aware of this, the Windows ink, I still need to go do a whole blog post and talk about all the things that it can go and do. But in the latest update with Windows 10, and if you have it on there, have not yet played with it, down at the the bottom right side of your screen, the Windows ink, the little icon, which is a little confusing, of a pen writing a little cursive line there, but opens the sticky notes, which I am using. I'm moving away from using actual sticky notes and using this on screen. But is the third one down is that screen sketch. What's cool about this is that if you're in a Skype meeting, or I've been using it like via Teams and sharing my desktop, is that I could actually go into a screen or a Word doc or a PowerPoint or whatever it is, and I can then share the screen, move the mouse around, draw, highlight things on that screen that I'm talking about, capture that whole image, send it out there. I can crop the image. There's a lot of things that I can go and do there. And so what's fantastic about this, I was doing this with one of my employees. I used this when I was talking to the team that was redoing my website, my company website. So it's actually to open up, share the screen, show the browser, and show like, hey, I want this moved over, or this icon reduced, and just kind of highlight those things on screen, and then send a snapshot of that with typed notes. It was fantastic, rather than going and grabbing screenshots and dumping into Word or PowerPoint and adding and editing things. Do it right there live.
Now, I would like to say that I really appreciated your tip, but the only problem I have with your tip is that the laptop that I have for work is on the older side, so I don't have the ability to use Windows Ink. Windows Ink, that sounds like a company, to the level that I'd like to be able to actually use a stylus type pen to do it. Where on my personal laptop, I could do it on my Surface Book, but that one I haven't quite started to use that much yet. So. This one right here that I'm going to end with is, if you have not yet upgraded to Office Pro Plus or Office 2016, we got kind of a rude little surprise when we had moved up to that, because we had a number of people who would use the properties of the document, especially in document libraries, because your properties over here would show the metadata that you maybe had added to a SharePoint library or things like that. And all of a sudden, they didn't have a way to access that information in the document, and I had a lot of freaked out users. And unfortunately, at the time, they were like, how do I get it back? And the answer was, you don't, because there was no recommended way to go get it back. It was just gone. You don't need that, do you? Well, just so you know, if you've been living with that hell thinking that, my God, I wish they would fix this, it's back. So if you go down to the properties pane in a document, and you go down to the right side, you'll see your properties here, but you'll also see this nice little link that says show all properties. And voila, they have actually added all these back in. So in this case, this was from a document library that we had, where they had things like subject and plan years and statuses and things like that. So now all of a sudden, when they're back working in these Word documents and updating Word documents that are policies and things like that, they can now actually update them in the document. They can update them in the SharePoint library if they want to. But giving them back this particular feature was a huge deal for my users, because like I say, they were really upset over the fact that they had lost that. So this isn't so much a tip as it is, if you learned about the fact that you lost your properties there and you've been thinking that that's all that you had to work with and sorry, that's just life, go back and check again. They are back, which is a really good thing.
Okay, now come off mute here. So this is the final vote here for round 5. So it's either my Windows Ink sketching or Tom's properties pane and Office Pro Plus being back.
I gotta kind of give you that one, Christian. The scribbling on your page, because I will not admit that you were writing and marking things up. I like scribble.
Well, I appreciate that. And so let me just do this. Just need to make a correction here. Oh, wait. Just need to correct this. Wait, I'm in the wrong mode. That's why. Hang on just a second. We have to make it official.
Yeah, that's what we're going to call you now. Name.
Well, Christian, yeah, okay. So, yeah, it's not perfect. It's not a science, Tom.
Yeah, you just wanted the bigger picture.
Well, I appreciate everybody for joining, and I know we went over here, but really thank everybody for joining, and thank you for the votes, and for once again bringing me home the win. Thank you. Tom, as always, great to talk to you and go through this, and looking forward to the next bout.
And just kind of as a bit of a teaser for people, but we do have SharePoint Saturday Utah coming up.
February 3rd, correct?
February 3rd, which is going to be the Wasatch Wrangle.
Yes. But we've got events that are happening. So in December, and we've got to put a calendar date on for January. So we will be doing these on a monthly basis and sharing more hints and tips. So thanks a lot, everybody, and Tom for joining. And we'll let everybody drop off. And thanks for participating.